I got asked by a subscriber to express how I feel about the Resident Evil series. Do I love it? Do I hate it? Do I despise it? I grew up with it. I will always have a special connection to the earlier Resident Evils. I was never really a fan of the spin-offs, you know, the ones with the on-rail shooter segments. But I used to really love Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, even 4, Resident Evil 0, and all of the other remakes on the GameCube. But looking back, it really was Resident Evil 4 that destroyed the series. Not with a bang, but with a slow, steady stream of poison. Now what I mean is that there was an underlined message that the series could not go back. Once you had this camera angle, once you had this shooting mechanics, once you opened up this level of freedom, you can't willingly go back to a more restrained way of playing. But the damage is actually done. I remember Resident Evil 1 when I saw that zombie cutscene at the very beginning. I was terrified. I couldn't aim at his head, there was no precise aiming. I couldn't sprint, I couldn't do much. It was literally a what the fuck moment. And what does that build? Tension. The ironic thing is that many of you watching me are of a younger generation. At that time, it wasn't limited. It was actually next gen. It was actually amazing. For years before this, we had 2D gaming. This was 3D. What was obviously a development restriction on the RAM or the GPU actually played to its advantage. The games were slower paced back then. You entered the mansion, you found keys, you went back and forth, you built a connection with the environment. Resident Evil 5 and 6 falls prey to this. Shooting and gunning, not really getting connected to the world you're in, but the earlier games didn't. Let's take Resident Evil 2 when you entered the police station. That amazing composition, eerie sounds and eerie music. Those bells playing in solitude, the liquor climbing up the wall, the stars room, the labs where there were secrets upon secrets for you to discover. Nowadays it's just about how big can you make the enemies, how many enemies can you have, how much bullets can you have, how many polygons can you put in it. Now don't get me wrong, these earlier Resident Evils was beautiful, but that wasn't all it did. There was substance to it, there was more to it. And this is where the juxtaposition between greatness and shittiness comes in. Resident Evil 4 broke the series. And the weird thing is I class it amongst the best of all the Resident Evils. If you are a long-term fan of Resident Evil games, you will know that weirdly, Resident Evil 5 wasn't the real introduction of a co-op partner. It was Resident Evil 0. Now granted, it wasn't a co-op partner in the typical sense, it was still you playing in a single player, but you could switch between these characters. Now if you want to talk about graphics, especially you PlayStation fanboys, Nintendo back in the day was the best. They was the best, hands down. I played more in the PlayStation 2, but when I played on GameCube it was light and day. You could see the graphics difference easily. The Resident Evil 1 remake was beyond beautiful. I defy anyone who's had the chance to play that game to say it isn't gorgeous, especially for the time period. Now weirdly, I still class myself to this day as a Resident Evil fan, even though I haven't even touched or played Resident Evil 6. For those of you that have watched me for a long time, you may remember me at More Games J. Let's say I made some videos that was a little bit critical of the newer Resident Evils. I used to be a bit crazy. And I must have said in one of those videos that I will not touch Resident Evil 6, and I haven't to this day. Although I must admit I am very tempted, because even though in the newer versions they've fucked everything up, it's still Resident Evil on the box. And weirdly I actually remember saying I might pick it up when it's £5 in the bargain bin. And that's the direction I think the series has gone, bargain bin level. We don't want another mindless shooter, we have too many of them. Bring back the slower paced Resident Evils. Bring back the tension, bring back the fans.